Since cryptocurrency market is the most volatile financial market, futures trading and CFD have become very popular. Of course, every crypto nerd out there has its own trading strategy, but at least you should know about two popular modes of margin management: cross margin and isolated margin. Many exchanges provide cross margin trading while others offer isolated margin trading. So what are the differences between them and which one is better for you? I'm pretty sure you'll learn that when you watch this pretty short video until the very end. Hey there, you're watching DeFeed channel, and we continue to make series of educational content for you guys. So support our efforts by clicking like under this video and subscribing to the channel. And now let's get straight to it, shall we? So let's refresh our knowledge first, as there may be some concepts to clarify first. So in margin trading, the minimum initial amount needed to enter a position is called initial margin, and the minimum amount needed to keep that position from getting liquidated is called maintenance margin. So back on track on our course, and let's examine cross margin first. Cross margin, also known as spread margin, is a margin method that utilizes the full amount of funds in the available balance of the relevant crypto, both initial and maintenance margin, to avoid liquidations on the positions with the same settlement crypto. In other words, all funds in the available margin balance will be included no matter how much margin you invested in. If the open position is forced liquidated, all your available balances will be counted in. This margin method is useful for users who are hedging existing positions, and also for arbitrageurs who don't want to wish to be exposed on one side of the trade in the event of a liquidation. And now let's talk about isolated margin. So isolated margin allows the trader to set aside the portion of the margin from their wallet balance to open a position. In this mode, your liability is limited to the initial margin posted. So in the event of a liquidation, any available balance you may have will not be used to add margin to your position. To put it simply, you will just lose the initial margin. Your maintenance margin will stay intact. Isolated margin is quite useful for speculative positions. So by isolating the margin the position uses, you can limit your losses to the initial margin set, and thus help short-term speculative trade ideas that turn out incorrectly. In extra volatile market, a highly leveraged position can lose equity pretty much quickly, so there is a chance of being liquidated. For example, if you open a 50x or 100x position on a centralized exchange, it will likely be liquidated after like a 2% move against you. So be extremely cautious about such things. You must be thinking that your balance is safer with isolated margin. As a result of that, you will only lose the margin invested in. But an isolated margin mechanism is easy to blow up your positions or get liquidated during huge market fluctuations. While in cross-margin mechanism, although all your balance will be included, the margin ratio is much higher than in isolated margin, which will help you avoid blow-up or liquidation, and also give you a chance to turn a loss into some profits. And now let's talk about how to enable cross or isolated margin. On many centralized exchanges or margin trading platforms, cross margin is enabled by default when opening a margin account. But if it's not, you may have to enable it yourself, as for isolated margin too. Usually there is a control panel with leverage slider. The further to the right you move the slider, the higher the leverage and the less margin is used for the position. And by the way, a very important note that you should take is to pay attention to risk ratio and margin ratio. Risk ratio, if it's presented on the platform you're using for margin trading, assesses the current state of the crypto market and its volatility level. In other words, like risk. Margin ratio is to be taken care of when you open a margin position. It is an indicator to determine whether an open position will be liquidated or blow up or not. And so the higher the margin ratio, the safer your funds are, and you will not be liquidated or blown up easily. And by the way, care to settle down order limits for buy, sell, as it may turn out to be a lifesaver for your margin positions. So care to place some limits, stop loss, and take profit sums, of course if it's available, to automate your process and protect yourself from expected market turns. And the last question that remains here, which one to use? As I mentioned before, cross-margin mode has a better capability to resist the risk of liquidation. Therefore, it's more applicable in long-term strategy, which requires positions to survive under extreme market situations. On the other hand, isolated margin mode is more flexible and restricts the loss only for the part of the funds. It also requires full attention to the market to adjust the margin promptly, so it's more proper to be used when trades shoot for some short-term high profit. And yeah guys, that was it about today's video. I hope you've learned the main difference between cross margin and isolated margin, and this video was useful for you. Of course, if you have more questions about this theme, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. I'll be happy to help you out here. So stay tuned with us, and until next time, goodbye.